Greetings, my little lovelies. I hope I find you all well again, and as usual feeling tickety-boo. Now, we've got 3 marvellous new videos for you today. The first one is about an apparition in Rome. The second one is actually happening right now, and it's about a plague of locusts. That is very interesting. And the third and final... Hold on. Where are you going? Look at that. You don't come on till the end. You just can't get the staff these days. Right, where was I? Oh yes, the third and final one is about a dead dad who comes back and speaks to his daughter. Now, without further ado, that's a posh word, ado. Right, stop it. Right, without further ado, let's crack on, shall we? The following has been sent in by Tundi, and Tundi comes from Rome in Italy. The year was 1999. I had lived in my house for many years and had the same next door neighbours for about 5 to 6 years. One night I heard them screaming. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. It woke me up. It was so loud. The following morning I saw them. I asked them what was the screaming all about. They said they had seen a figure hovering above their bed, looking down on them, and then it disappeared. I didn't pay much attention to it. I thought maybe they'd had a dream or something like that. About 3 days later I had put some washing out, and it had started to rain, so I ran out to bring my washing inside. I looked over to my neighbour's house and I saw something very weird. It was something very tall with white smoke coming off it. I had never seen anything like this before. I wasn't scared, so I moved closer, and then it noticed me. It started moving round in circles for about 10 seconds, spinning very fast, and then, like a flash, it was gone. I mentioned this to my neighbours, and the image I saw seemed to fit in with what they told me previously. The following night I was in my bed, and again, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard this screaming. I looked out of my window, but I couldn't see anything. The following night I heard screaming again. I presumed that they were having a nightmare, as I had previously thought. The screaming got louder and louder. I went outside to see what it was. The father was very tearful. He said that he'd gone into his son's room and he had seen the apparition above his son's bed. The son screamed and pointed at the apparition hovering above his bed. The apparition then suddenly disappeared. Tundi concludes that it did not end well that night. Very sadly, she says, the little boy died. A locust swarm approaching Egypt has led a Bible scholar to claim that we are in the last days, urging Christians to prepare for the second coming of Jesus Christ. The worst plague of locusts in 70 years is currently ravaging East Africa, endangering economies in the region heavily dependent on agriculture. In recent days, the infestation has hit South Sudan, Uganda and Tanzania, having already decimated crops throughout Ethiopia, Kenya and Somalia. Scientists are pointing the finger at climate change, blaming rapidly warming waters in the Indian Ocean off Africa's eastern coast becoming the perfect breeding ground for them. But biblical writer Mark A. Kellner has another theory. He said earlier this month, "Rarely since the exodus of Hebrew slaves from Egypt has the African continent seen such a sight. Locusts swarming throughout Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, South Sudan and Uganda, and now heading to Egypt." Mr. Kellner is referring to the plagues of Egypt, a story depicted in the book of Exodus in which God inflicts 10 disasters or plagues on the Egyptian people after the Pharaoh refuses to accept Moses' demands for the Israelites to be freed from their chains of slavery. Mr. Kellner says there is another piece of scripture that shows this swarm proves we are living in the final days, and it comes from Matthew 24. He cites, "Scripture tells us that we are living in the last days, and during that period, nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be famines, pestilences, earthquakes, and floods in various places." Mr. Kellner believes the end times are clear for everybody to see. What do you think, folks? As usual, let us know. The following has been sent in by Kelly from the USA. Kelly writes, "My best friend's father Austin died, and I've gotten very close to him, especially over the last few years of his life. He treated me like his own daughter since I had lost my father unexpectedly 10 years prior to this. On the day of Austin's funeral, I went home to a quiet, empty house, and I was very upset and emotional. I was on the couch with my 2 small dogs and had a good cry. I was really missing my father. He was the best friend I ever had. I cried aloud to him that I really missed him. Suddenly I hear him say to me out loud, "Hey, babe!" This is how he always addressed me when he was greeting me in person or answering the phone. The voice was his, and it was very loud, almost an echo, and it was coming from above and behind me. My dogs went ballistic because they heard him too. They jumped off the couch and ran behind me, barking at the ceiling. It freaked me out so bad I went outside and waited for my husband to come home. I know it was him, and this tells me there is another dimension when our loved ones are gone. I assume it's heaven, and it is just within reach of us. Prior to this, on 2 occasions, someone has whispered in my ear, and another time I got a hello. I doubted these 2 occurrences until I heard my father speak to me. And best of all, he sounded so happy. I could hear his usual happiness in his voice. He was a great, loud and funny man. 2 years after this, I went to see a local psychic who told me my father's spirit was with me, which I thought was interesting. This has caused me to become more spiritual, and I know this life is nothing compared to the one we get after this one. I was a big skeptic before this. I will never doubt what I heard, especially when my dogs reacted the way they did. It just confirms everything for me. Welcome back, my little lovelies. I hope those few videos didn't frighten you too much. Now, let us know what you think, as usual. Keep it nice and clean. Keep it all tickety-boo, my little lovelies. Now, before I go, welcome to the new subscribers. Thanks for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Now, that's all from me for this episode. Until next time, my little lovelies, stay warm, stay safe, stay tickety-boo. Now, ta-ta, my little lovelies. Ta-ta, ta-ta, my little lovelies.